It's been about, I think, 15 months, wow, time flies, since we launched a separate section in the Play Store just for families. And since then, we've built a lot more products and services sort of for this audience. So I'll share some of those things with you, as well as insights on what we have sort of gleaned from this 15 months of stuff. So families are a very important and strategic audience, and we all know that, right? And they're both important and strategic to Google, but also especially to Play. Most of the families, most of the world's population lives in family-based households, right? And as we can see, just in the US alone, the device usage, both for smartphones and tablets, is much higher in houses which have minor children. In fact, those households also, which have families, tend to use their mobile devices a lot more for purchasing goods and services or playing games. And it is not just the sheer numbers of families that matter here, it is also how they use technology. We've done a lot of surveys of parents and kids, and in fact, overwhelmingly kids say technology is a part of their life, and it's one of the best parts about being a kid. And one such kid is Matthias, who's a 10-year-old in Canada, and he loves Rubik's Cubes. And he's using technology to create a contraption to help him solve Rubik's Cubes. And it's just an example of how kids, and therefore households that have kids, really experience technology in a different way. And that's why we created experiences just for families in the Play Store. So as I said last year, about 15 months ago, we launched a separate destination on the Play Store just for families. And then in a major store update, we brought that front and center. So, in the main store, users can just parents can click on that and basically see all the content for families. At the end of last year, we launched a family music plan where up to 6 members in a family can share purchase music for $14.99. And when you think about stuff that you want to share with families or do with families, right, there's a lot of sort of exploring, learning new things together. I know with my kids, I love cooking or traveling. You want to make sharing really easy, and that's why a couple of months ago we launched the Family Library. And what this does is allows you as a family, again up to 6 people, to share purchased apps and games, movies, TV shows, books with members in your family. And from a developer perspective, what this does for you is it increases your engagement and reach. And for users, it gives them a great experience as a family on Play. And one of the best parts about this is when someone is setting up that family account, they actually put down a credit card as a family form of payment. And as we all know, that's one of the biggest hurdles or friction points in the purchase flow. So now that they have it in there already, they're more prone to hopefully making purchases. So now let's shift gears. We're talking about what's important to families. What content do families care about, right? And in this, one of the and then as all of us who are part of a family, think about one thing I think remains constant, no matter where you are, developed world, emerging, rich, poor, rural or urban. Most parents want to raise their kids to be happy, productive, successful. And how do we help them do that? So, anyone know kids who are starting school now? It's the back to school season. Which year are they going to be graduating from college? Quick math here. Okay, 2033. And I guess depending on how many years of school they are, but at least in the US, 2033. And when you think about what are they going to be? Yes, they'll be doctors, they'll be scientists, engineers, what have you. But research shows 60% of those jobs have not been invented yet. So then, here's the conundrum. If there are jobs that haven't been invented and technologies haven't been created, and we don't even know which problems we're trying to solve, how do you help these kids grow up? How do you use technology to help them be happy, productive, successful, right? So one thing though is always good to know and reassuring with all this uncertainty, kids will always be kids, which means they will be insatiably curious, and that is really helpful as they need to be. So as we start thinking about as parents, as educators, as developers, as the whole community, how do we prepare this next generation for those challenges, and how can technology play a role in that? Google commissioned the Economist Intelligence Unit to do a survey to understand what are those skills that those kids will need for those jobs that don't exist today. So I'd love to get your thoughts. Any thoughts on kind of what came up? And by the way, feel free, this is you want to make this more interactive and you can tell I ask a lot of questions. Anyone? There's no wrong answer. Thomas, can I call on you? Any thoughts? So what skills would be important for kids to learn?
Anything to do with creativity.
A good answer, yeah. The creativity is important. Anyway, so so interestingly, one would think that yes, coding and engineering and so all that, the sciences and all are important, and they were there. But business leaders overwhelmingly said the soft skills are really important. So problem solving, team building, collaboration, communication, all those really matter. And why? It's because even as technology changes, types of works people do are different. And again, those jobs, 60% of which haven't been invented yet. These skills are what you need to basically crack hard challenges, right? Work with diverse teams to solve problems or imagine problems that don't exist. So as developers, think about making sure that the apps and games you build help instill these, these skills in kids, more than just it's a math app or this app helps them with this particular part of their curriculum. So innovation, so I'll give you some examples of these, even at Google. Innovation we know is global. And as we think about innovation of the future, it's going to come from a lot of different perspectives working together. In fact, we have human-to-human collaboration, and there's a lot more kind of human-to-smart machine collaboration. So at Google, we have a diverse team, and you can see just being here, we have people in different countries and cultures and different languages work together, but also collaborate across disciplines. So, for example, you have the Google Lens, which is a contact lens which measures the blood sugar level in diabetic patients. And in this we have, of course, data scientists, computer engineers, but collaborating with biologists and urologists, right? So a more recent example is the phenomenon of Pokemon Go. You've got IP licensors and AR engineers and cartographers all coming together to create this really interesting different experience. So to do well, kids will need to learn how to collaborate effectively across all these boundaries. And creativity, as Thomas mentioned also, is going to be really important because creativity actually drives true invention. So think about artificial intelligence, for example, where you have in Google Photos, you can do a search for pictures of your dog, and without having tagged them, all the pictures in which your dog is present show up because it understands the dog. Or the technology in self-driving cars, right? Industrial machines took over blue-collar jobs, and we see computers increasingly taking over white-collar jobs. But there's something computers won't ever be able to do, which is identify what are the problems and what things need to be created, and then drive to create them. And that is why helping kids instill creativity in kids is so important. There's a lot of information, right, at our fingertips. And in fact, years ago, kids went to the library and sifted through encyclopedias and got that information. Now they have it on a computer on their desk. Then they have it on their phone. They have it on their wrist. And soon they're going to be wearing, things which give them information. So critical thinking is really important to understand with all the sea of information, how do you sift through it, find out what's important, and then actually use that. So moving on now a little bit to kind of our learnings from having the family section and play and what it takes to achieve success there. So we've done a lot of research, as I'd mentioned, with parents and kids. And as you all know, there's two main users of any kid's content, unlike sort of other categories. So you've got the parents who make the download decisions and control the spend, definitely, and who also monitor the usage. And then you've got kids who are the ultimate users of that content. And we've seen this distinct split. As kids grow older, the parents' role changes. So when kids are young, up to 8 years old or so, parents really make the ultimate decision on what to download. They have the final say, they make the decision. In fact, for younger kids, they spend a lot of time with the kids and you know, playing with them with that content. But as kids grow older, their interests change, and you know, they get their own hobbies, their own friends who give them recommendations, and they have their own devices. And that's where parents' role changes more towards a sort of monitoring role. And sometimes this is where parents and kids butt heads on what's appropriate to download. So therefore, thinking about parents is equally, if not more important, as thinking about kids. So on Play, we've noticed parents actually browse a lot more than your average user. Typically, people come to Play Store, they search, they know what they want, they search for it, download it, and leave. But when parents do that, they actually come and they spend time browsing, looking for stuff that they think their kid is going to be interested in. They spend a lot of time doing categorical sort of searches and going through different categories, and also comparing apps and evaluating them to say, is this appropriate for my child? And when they search and browse, what do they look at? The three main things that they've told us. They care about brands, because brands to them denote quality, and it's, you know, it's appropriate, it's kid friendly, and especially brands that they've known and loved. And so investing in a brand, while expensive, definitely makes sense in this space. They also think about interests, like child's interests. So child likes dinosaurs or plane or travel, and also sometimes formal learning, you know, math, animals. And then finally, they care about sort of characters. And they care about characters that are, you know, kids are watching their TV shows and they know what they're interested in, but also even sometimes characters from their childhood that they want to bring to their kids. And what are the top factors that parents then use to make that decision to purchase, right? So the $1 million, or rather the $299 question rather. So they've told us that these 6 things matter a lot to them. Fun and engagement is important, right? And that makes sense. But this also, there's a nuance to this, because this changes as the kids' age changes. When kids are younger, parents are looking more for something educational and fun. But as kids grow older and they start going to schools, parents recognize they're getting a lot of learning from there. So then it becomes more entertaining and recreational. So it really needs to be a way for them to relax and not kind of to get stressed out. They also care about it being age appropriate. Right? So this is not just as the content, you know, doesn't have profanity or sexual content and all, but is my kid going to be frustrated because the activities are too easy or too hard for them? So really look for that. They care about interests, and we've talked about that, and this is where sometimes for older kids, their interests and their parents' interests diverge. And educational content. And this matters a lot when they're younger, because for younger kids, parents associate any sort of content with being educational. High quality really matters to them. Like, it needs to be something that looks professional, has been done nicely, and then of course price. So where do they look to know? I mean, that's a lot of, you know, huge laundry list. How do they know that something has this or not? The app listing page. And that is why it's really, really important. And as you've probably heard, a lot of the stuff we're doing, all the tools Google Play is building, are geared towards really helping you guys optimize that page, right? So here, star rating matters. And star rating of 4 stars or above is really good. And what parents say they do is, when they even in search results, they use the star rating as a way to then click into and get into a listing page, because they're like, wow, this seems like it's high quality. And we've seen before also, you know, quality corresponds commensurately. The higher the star rating, it also corresponds to, you know, higher revenue. Parents also use the family badge with the age rating. And that, they've told us, is a really quick and easy way for them to scan to see, is this trusted and appropriate, right, and kid-friendly, and also is it appropriate, age-appropriate for their kids. So that badge is really important. So as you think about what age group you want to, you know, you want to put down for your app, really think carefully through what is that, you know, what that is, because parents will use that to determine whether or not to download your content. Title and description matter. In fact, parents have told us they actually read the description fully, and I think probably more than any other category. So make sure very thoughtful when you're writing that description. And I've said before in other presentations, you know, if you want accolades and all, that's important, but really be very clear up front initially, this is what it is, right? And then you can, you know, go through all the different prizes and all the app has won. And finally, icon and screenshots are very important. Kids especially react. We've done surveys and they react to the icon. That's one of the most important things for them. And parents use screenshots to understand what the user experience will be. Remember, they're not the ultimate user, and especially for something that they're not sure of, the screenshot tells them very quickly, yes, this is something that my kids would like. Ratings and reviews, you've heard a lot about how important they are in having a sort of in improving your quality of the app, and it reflects in reflecting the quality of the app. Way more important in this space, family space, than any other, because parents use these reviews to understand, is that content appropriate? Have other parents like this content? And it gives them a sense of whether or not their kid will like it. Remember, because they're making a decision not for themselves, but for someone else. So typically the first 10 reviews also matter. And it also matters, are those reviews from other parents, right? Because even if it's friends who don't have kids, it's not as important as someone they don't know, but who has a kid their kid's age. So they really look for reviews from other parents, and I'd encourage you guys to make sure that your users who love your apps leave reviews up there and take advantage of Play's features and reviews that you've heard about earlier today and also at I/O. So we talked about how compelling store listing is and the icon. How many people here have used store listing experiments, by the way? How many haven't but plan to? Okay. Well, these are really important. You've heard me talk about, probably if you've come to one of my presentations, Rovio, who now does not launch anything without experimenting with the icon to see what works. And then Baby First, who used, change an icon and saw 10% increase in installs in their app. And some of you earlier this year may have heard Pear from Apps Families talk about Super Puzzle. They noticed when they launched that the dragon icon wasn't getting a lot of downloads, and they weren't sure why. They changed to the unicorn, and almost immediately, revenue and downloads doubled. And they figured out it's because there are a lot of moms who are downloading this, and for some reason I think they saw women get, like the icon for like unicorns. And so then after that, they experimented with using a borderless icon, and they saw installs increase up to 5% after that. So if you're not using this already, I would definitely think about this. But the point I'm also trying to make here is, think about your audience and what they want, right? If they're thinking moms are downloading, unicorns matter to them, and then test it. So this is where it's both an art and a science. So think high quality experience needs to work on any device that it's used on. And in the kid space, tablets are way more important than in maybe any other category. And in fact, I would say equally, if not more important than phones. So younger kids especially are avid tablet users. Sometimes it's a cheaper device, it's a hand-me-down from their parents, it's a family device, unlike the phone, which is a very personal device. And given that a lot of spend of family apps, majority of it comes on tablets, optimizing for tablets and using our tablet guidelines to make sure that you use the full real estate in your screenshots, and using as much as you can to make sure it works on tablets is important. And then speaking of testing, right? You want to make sure that it works on whatever device, as I said. Whether it's a parent or the child making the decision, it needs to, you don't want them to leave. Even you've got this beautiful content, it's teaching kids creativity and collaboration, but if it's buggy, kids are fickle, they're going to leave. So use, and I know we've talked about this earlier, but use the Firebase Test Lab pre-launch report to see, does it work on all the devices it's supposed to? Are the screenshots showing up correctly where they are? Are there any bugs or vulnerabilities? But I want, so I've done a lot of talking. I want for you to hear from developers on what Play for Families has meant for them. Can we play the video, please?
The launch of the family section on Google Play was hugely positive for Story Toys. I think what it did was solve the discovery issue for parents.
It's really provided a safe, trusted, creative space for families to find new content.
My partner Guy Oranim and I started Baby First with the idea and the passion to create good educational content for babies, toddlers, and their parents. When we learned about the family category on the Google Play Store, it was a 100% match to the Baby First values. We have seen that parents can easily find the content they are looking for. We now have 40% more downloads on Google Play than we do on other platforms. We like that.
Since the launch of the family section on Google Play, our experience with Android has been completely transformed. We saw a huge uplift in revenues, and downloads too. Google Play was now our #1 channel. It's been nothing but positive. We're delighted to be involved.
Sorry, I want to close with, so if you are We talked about a design for family program earlier. So if you're building any content for kids, either if it's purely for kids, i.e. child directed, or it's for a mixed audience, so adults and kids both enjoy it, make sure kind of you join the Design for Families program, understanding the guidelines. So you need to have a rating of 10 or 10 plus sort of from ESRB, and also think about the audience, where if it's a purely child-directed app, you can't use Google Play sign-in, and if it's for both kids and adults, you can use it but make it optional. For the rest of you, if you're thinking about creating content for kids and publishing on the Play Store, definitely download that. Our marketing team has done an amazing job in getting not just insights that we've learned on Play, but also insights from other developers, some of which you heard in the video, on best practices that they use. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, and I'll be around later if you want to ask any more questions. Hope that was helpful.